Welcome back to the Talk Your Tail Off podcast. I'm your host, Vanessa, more commonly known as Girl with the Dogs. And for today's episode, myself and two of my friends will be discussing our crazy rescue mission to Astana, Kazakhstan. But before we get started, I just want to encourage you all to join this community by hitting that subscribe button. And if you're interested in the pet grooming products that I know and love, you can visit my website, girlwiththedogs.com, and use code TALKTAIL for 10% off your first order. Now let's dive into today's episode. Today's guests are my good friend Vanessa and Maria. Hey guys.
Hey.
Hello.
Thanks for joining me.
Thank you.
Yeah, thanks for having us.
We're going to recall our wonderful trip to Kazakhstan. This is for anyone listening, this trip was a complete disaster.
It was insane.
It's something to remember, definitely something we're never going to forget.
Yeah, that's a good way to put it.
So I guess I should start on how this trip even came to be and how I met the person that basically organized this entire trip. So I'll start off by saying years prior to me going to Kazakhstan, I adopted a Kazakhstan puppy and then ended up giving him, he wasn't for me. There was a litter of puppies that needed a home that came from Kazakhstan. I took one of the puppies, ended up giving it to my cousin. So my cousin still has that dog to this day. His name is Teddy. Teddy. And this is how I started following this individual on Instagram who was rescuing these animals from Kazakhstan, bringing them to Canada to find them homes. I believe she also brought them to the United States as well. And I just started following her on Instagram, and she started posting things saying she needed couriers to go to Kazakhstan to bring animals back. And I had this bright idea that I wanted to be a part of this and go to Kazakhstan and bring back these rescue animals, dogs and cats. And then I guess I just asked you guys if you wanted to come with me.
Yeah, no,
Oh, yeah.
that's pretty much how it went, I'm pretty sure.
And Maria, at the time, I think you were working for me.
Yeah, I was your right-hand person and then doing all the grooming.
Yes, you
Except
were
it was just baths that I did.
the assistant. The
Yeah,
assistant
exactly.
job. And I was like, hey, do you want to go to Kazakhstan? And you were like, yeah.
Let's do it.
And then I asked you, and you were like, yes. Because we're all insane and thought that this was going to be a great free trip to Kazakhstan. Said nobody ever.
No.
We did not do our research.
No.
We left the research to like who we were going to meet to do.
Right.
Yeah.
So when we left for Kazakhstan, so Kazakhstan from Canada is a 24-hour journey.
Yeah.
And the time zone is 24 hours. Mm-hmm. Oh my gosh, I remember I was puking on the way to Kazakhstan. I just thought about that. I just remembered that.
Yeah, that was like, whenever you're going to go travel and it's going to be a long trip, you're kind of like mentally preparing, like, I'm going to be exhausted. I'm not going to be comfortable, like even just on the plane, in the airports, and whatever the case is. And I think we had a layover for quite a few hours. It wasn't just like...
No, we had we
had 2 layovers or one?
just one.
One,
in
yeah.
Germany.
In
Yes,
Germany,
yeah.
Frankfurt.
Yeah, and it wasn't like an hour and then we get on to the next plane. It was like a few hours.
No,
It's
we had to
like,
hang out there for a bit.
and Vanessa was sick.
I
Why
cannot.
were you sick?
I can't drive in the back seat. Like
Oh,
I
yeah,
can't be
true.
in the back.
She
seat
was
of the
sick in
car.
Toronto.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Like literally in the line after we dropped off our luggage, she's like, I'm gonna puke. And I'm like, we haven't even started.
Wait,
We're
are
not
you
even.
scared of airplanes?
No, that's not what happened.
Okay.
So I get motion sickness really, really bad.
Yeah.
And your mom, Maria, drove us to the airport and you were in the front seat.
Yeah.
And I was in the back seat.
Yeah.
Regret, instant regret. As soon as I'm in the back seat of a vehicle driving literally any distance, but especially far, I'm going to be sick. So I had really bad motion sickness. So when we got to the airport, I was in line puking into a bag.
I know, I remember that. That was so
I actually forgot until you just said that.
Me too. I just remembered that.
You were puking in the bag and I was just standing in front of you laughing.
Didn't they put me in a freaking wheelchair? They did. And they were bringing me in the wheelchair.
Yeah.
Oh my
was
God.
dying.
That's so embarrassing.
How long ago was this? Do we remember?
It was 9 years ago.
okay.
2015.
It feels like longer than that. Wow.
It feels like longer than that, but at the same time, it's like, really, was that 9 years ago? Like those dogs that we brought back are like old now.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Like, that's bizarre.
Yeah, no, it's crazy.
It's crazy.
The whole thing is crazy.
They were puppies. I know.
Cute.
So yes, I was puking on the way. So that should have been our first red flag that this was going to be like a really bad experience and we should maybe not go. I remember my mom being like, "You're nervous." I'm like, "Well, I am nervous about the whole trip, but I'm not scared of flying. So that's not why I'm puking right now. I'm just the worst and have motion sickness, and still to this day get really bad motion sickness. I have to be the one driving." Yeah, not a good time. So we get on the plane, and I want to just say we did not know the person that we were meeting there. I had been in contact with her. So the lady that, I should probably explain this a little bit further, but she was paying for us to go to Kazakhstan to get these dogs and cats and bring them home. So this was a free trip. We didn't have any expenses. We just had to take about 10 days or so off of work. I think it was 10 days that we went, right?
I think we were there for 10 days.
But it was 12 days in total.
Yeah, something like that.
Because 2 days traveling.
Yeah.
Are we okay? Like, that is so crazy to me to think about that now. Like, okay, we're just going to go to Kazakhstan.
My sister always tells people, my sister went to the Soviet Union because it's the Soviet Union. It was the Soviet Union.
My mom tells people I went to Russia, and I'm like, "Mom, I did not go to Russia."
We went next to Russia.
She's like, she's going to Russia, and I'm like, I'm not. That's not where I'm going.
So this lady, I was in contact with her while we were setting up this trip, but I had never met her before. She had never met me before. So here we are going on this trip to Kazakhstan to meet somebody that we've never met before, to do something really crazy. Mm-hmm. Yeah. The brains at that time were not braining.
Well, I remember when we got there was somebody waiting with like her name.
Yes.
And I was like, "That's us." And you were like, "Wait, we don't know. We need to figure." And I'm like, "It's fine. Like, it's just in the car." And the whole ride, you were like, "We're getting kidnapped." I'm like, "No, it's fine. Like,
it was
our
taken.
names on a sign." Like,
this is how Taken starts. Okay.
I was just like, I'm happy to be off a plane. Get me literally anywhere else.
We arrive in the airport, and the lady that set this all up for us, we're going to call her S. Okay. Mm-hmm. S told me that she was picking us up at the airport. And then there was this big Russian man at the airport with a sign that had our names. And I said, I am not getting into the car with this person. I was like,
this is awesome.
Absolutely not getting into the car with this person. We are going to get abducted in Kazakhstan, like never to be seen again. Okay. So I called S, and when we arrived, it was probably like 3 or 4 o'clock in the morning or something like that.
Yeah, it was really, really late.
Yeah.
So she answers the phone. She's like, "Hello." I'm like, there's this man at the airport. Am I supposed to get in the car with him because you did not tell me that there was going to be a man meeting us? She's like, "Oh yeah, it's fine. That's so-and-so." Okay. And then I remember I had our GPS on in the car to make sure that he was following the route to take us.
I was just place. Like, this is cool. Like looking around, you're like staring.
I'm like, we're going to die. So we get there, and we did not realize, when you look up Kazakhstan on Google, it looks like this beautiful country. The city of Astana looks amazing. Mm-hmm. It's all lies, I would just like to say. It does not look like that in person.
I feel like a small part of the city does, because I remember looking at the window at night and being like, I just kind of feel like I'm in Toronto or something right now. Like,
they made the city part look really nice, but the rest of Astana was not nice.
Not built up. They have a few like buildings that are absolutely stunning, like that opera we went to, and whatever other buildings that are like amazing. But you go to the mall, and it's like you're kind of in an abandoned city that has like 4 stores that has everything, and everything else is empty.
I feel like I remember the mall being
was bumping
big.
Yeah, it was big, but there wasn't as many stores as there should have been.
Wasn't there a water park in the mall, or am I making that up?
You might have been making that up.
I might be making that up. Maybe that was a different mall somewhere else in the world.
Just like where we went to those restaurants, we're like, oh, where are we gonna go eat? And it was like there's like 2 or 3 places with like a few plazas of restaurants, and then like that's it.
Yeah.
And then there's like a restaurant here, a restaurant there, but like it was just a few things built up around to make
it was like
really
near
nice.
Where all the condo buildings were. There was those nice condo buildings, and then they had the restaurants and shops under, and like those areas were really nice too.
But do you remember that every single house had like concrete walls with barbed wire?
Yeah. Yeah.
And like gates that they would open for your car to go in. It was scary. We were like, why is every house like a fort here? What is happening? Should we be concerned about our safety? I still am actually kind of confused as to why they had walls like that, because from what we witnessed, I didn't really witness any crime.
No, I feel like it's just how like some places are.
Like, do you think it was built like that during the war and then it just kind of stayed that way?
I think it might just be more of a status thing, like the gated
Yeah.
communities.
But the gated communities have barbed wire at the top?
Yeah.
I've never seen that before.
Yeah.
That was creepy as hell. That was
I
creepy.
agree, but no, I kind of agree with Vanessa. I think
it's more of like a status thing.
yeah, rather than, and like the barbed wire is just like if one person does it and it's like 5 people do it and then everyone does it in this neighborhood, then everyone else has to go and get it. And then, yeah, because we didn't see any like you said, any violent acts, any violent people. It wasn't that. It was just like, it was this really weird, like surreal town that we were in. It was weird.
And
Weird.
everybody was miserable.
Yeah.
Everybody was so miserable there.
It was freezing cold. Like, I don't blame them. I was also miserable.
But we were miserable because after being there for 10 days, we could not wait to get back to Canada. Canada was like, oh my God, I cannot wait to be in Canada again. So I can understand why people there are miserable because it's like not a nice place to live.
Well, we went out and we tried to do stuff. Like, I remember I dragged you guys to the museum and you guys were literally sleeping on a bench and I was walking around being like, this is cool, look at this.
I honestly, I'm the worst. I don't care for museums. They make me fall asleep.
We went to a ballet. I don't know why we did that.
I forgot about that.
I was like full on sleeping and
No,
then
but that
we left
I
at
liked.
the intermission.
She liked the ballet.
Yeah.
I think we left at the intermission.
Yeah.
didn't we? Yeah.
Because I'm good for like 10 minutes. I'm like, okay, we came, we saw, you guys want to leave. I enjoyed that. Let's go. It's all good.
It was cool. Like, it was really cool to be in the building. But yeah, sorry, ballerinas.
And none of them, nobody spoke English. So the
No,
ballet
no.
was also not in English.
No.
But like that building was beautiful.
Yeah.
And that's what I was talking about. There was a few buildings that were
Really nice.
absolutely stunning. And it looked like they just stopped after that. They stopped building the city.
It was, I think it's essentially to try to bring tourism in.
Yeah.
But the reality is the majority of that city is not like that.
Well, there was a huge military presence. Do you remember that?
No.
And somebody was explaining it to us. So the is it a president that they have there?
I have no idea. President, whatever.
So people were running against him.
No,
would disappear.
It's a communist country.
Whoever's in charge, I think they thought that he might be passing away soon, and because Kazakhstan has a lot of oil, the U.S. had like a heavy military presence there. So there was like tanks and like troops walking around everywhere.
So everybody listening, I have the worst memory in history, and I actually don't remember that, which is ridiculous.
I remember that. Yeah,
I remember
one
the
of the
part
guys
of-
was explaining it.
Yeah, I remember the part about how it's like, yeah, he's been our president or whatever leader for we're like, oh, how many years? Oh, like the past 20. Like, I don't know if that's accurate, but do you know what I mean? We're like,
A long
is
time.
there like a re-election every few years? Like,
It's communist country. There's no election.
no. So, and then it was like, oh, okay, well, there's that. Another little tidbit to the fun story. Fun trip.
So there's like the rich side of Kazakhstan where these people are living in these mansions. Like we stayed in a mansion, essentially. And then the very, very poor side that we saw that was really depressing.
But it was so close to each other.
They were very close to each other.
Yeah.
And we would drive around the poor area looking for stray dogs and cats to rescue. And the house that we were in was completely full of animals. There were cats and dogs just from
Oh
every...
my God, the little munchkin kittens.
So they never ended up being munchkins, by the way.
They weren't? Whenever I see a munchkin cat now, I'm like, oh my God, the kitten.
It's false advertising.
Oh my God.
Not munchkins we thought they were. They were just really small cats. But
They were super cute.
They were cute. So there's just cats everywhere, dogs everywhere, flying around all over the place, which was like heaven for me. I
Yeah,
don't
that
know
was
about you guys.
amazing.
I love it.
It was
but
amazing. Yeah.
It was good except for the one day, or not even day, I like couldn't sleep one night, and at 3 a.m. I wake up and there's like a purr right at my face. I'm like, okay, this is really cute, but I can't sleep. And I'm like in and out.
That's just my life, literally every day of my life. So
Yeah.
She loves cats. She's got cats.
That's fair.
Cats, yeah.
I tried to get Vanessa to convince you to
The
take
Bengals?
Yeah.
No, I was like on speed dial with everyone in my family. I'm like, please take these cats. I have to take them. Like, somebody has to take these cats. Like,
I need to show you a video after because my mom sent me a video.
no, because I'm literally going to take them.
Please take them because they're absolutely beautiful. I would take them if I lived in a different house, but they're really nice cats. But anyways, that's a sidetrack.
Okay.
So we went to these poor areas to try and find puppies. And we did. We found a few puppies. And I don't know if you remember, but I found the footage of this, which I will play on the YouTube version of this video. But we found these puppies with a mama dog. And the mama dog was chained up to a house. It couldn't even actually reach the inside of the house. So it had no protection from the elements. And she was starving. You could clearly see she was starving. So we got out and gave her food, and she was just annihilating this food. And then the owner came out from the house, and the owner was extremely drunk. Do you remember this drunk, crazy man?
Yep.
Okay. So we're trying to talk to him and tell him that we want to take the puppies. He understood what we were saying, even though he didn't speak English. So he tries to get the puppies, and as he's grabbing the puppies, they're like screaming and viciously trying to bite him. One did bite him. Like, I remember he let go because it bit him. And then he ended up picking it up by the tail and bringing it to our car, at which point we decided we didn't want to take them because they were so vicious. These young puppies were so incredibly vicious. We thought to ourselves, how are we going to, we're not going to be able to touch these dogs. So it was a bit of a failed mission there. But I remember just looking, like being in the moment and being mortified at the way that this guy was treating these dogs. It was sickening.
Because they don't have, like, even when we were in the airport on the way home, like, they don't understand. Like, they don't see dogs the way we see dogs.
They see them as squirrels.
Yeah.
Yeah, because there's so many of them running around everywhere that they don't have that love and connection. And we're not going to say everybody there, because there was people that owned dogs there.
Oh, definitely.
But they were purebreds.
Yeah.
They were walking around with their little purebred Pomeranians. The strays on the street were just garbage to them. And I do believe after we left, there was a law put in place that you would get, what's it called? A reward if you shoot and kill them.
Yeah.
Yeah, and bring them in dead, which is very sad. It's just not the way we see
Well, when we were leaving to come home with the dogs, they didn't understand. They held us up at the airport and they were like, we'll kill these for you. And we were like, no, we want to take them. Like,
Sorry. It's okay. I knew that mic was going to be a problem. Yes, I do remember that. But before we get into us leaving, is there anything else you guys recall about being in Kazakhstan?
do you remember how hard it was trying to order food in restaurants?
Well, because we didn't speak the language.
And we were trying to say, like, no dairy, like, no meat.
Yeah, you were vegan at the time, so you were like struggling, I think, to find food.
I survived off of fries. It was like Mojna frites. It was like, I want fries. Mojna frites.
I don't, honestly, I don't remember how to say any of these words. How did we say hello and goodbye? Do you remember?
I don't think we ever, I think it was just the fries. And then.
But we learned how to say hello and goodbye because S was saying it all the time.
And the dog. Was something Sabaka, or am I making that up?
Oh, that sounds...
Sabaka, wasn't that dog or puppy? Or...
That sounds familiar. I just don't know what it is.
I remember that every single restaurant had horse on the menu.
Yes.
Horse was very big there.
Yeah.
They really wanted us to eat it.
Yeah.
Like, multiple times people are like, no, you have to have this. You have to try it. And we're like, just no. Like, we just can't. And, like, we get that it's a delicacy. And we weren't rude about it or anything. It's just like, no, thank you. It's just... not
nasty. It's not us North Americans over here. Most of us aren't eating horse. Okay.
Yeah. It just, oh my God, that trip, it just like brings up so many not good memories. Like even just remembering that guy, remembering how people treated animals. Cause like, it's one thing when you go to a hot climate country where there's strays outside and it's like, okay, well, you know, at least it is warm year round. But we're from Canada, so we know how harsh the elements can be. And Kazakhstan was freezing. And so we were just like thinking about all those animals that are literally, like Vanessa said, that one animal that was chained up outside with no doghouse, no nothing, no coverage. That was not an uncommon occurrence. It was just, it's not good.
Remember so when we went to Kazakhstan, S had already had an entire litter of puppies that we were to bring home. But then we got the mother of the puppy. Do you remember that?
Yes.
Mm-hmm. So the mother of the puppies was in a parking lot and she was hiding underneath cars, and this parking lot was like fenced off. So we were trying to figure out how to get this dog. I think we tried for like at least an hour or so.
Well, she had been trying too to get the mom before we even got there.
Mm-hmm. So we were trying to get the mom. We couldn't. And then all of a sudden one day, a car pulls up and they had captured the mom and they brought it to us and they put her in the trunk of their car. So they went through the gate, they opened the trunk of her car and she just ran out, and then all the puppies chased her.
Oh my gosh.
And that dog... it's owned by somebody that I know. I groomed that dog for years. Her name was Nikita, and now it is Nikki, and she is still alive.
The mom.
Yeah, the mom.
Wow.
Yes. So, yeah, that was a crazy. We were like, you put the dog in the trunk of the car.
We need to get everyone who still has dogs to send pictures.
To send pictures of them. Yeah, I can try to do that.
That'd be really cute.
Well, our friend Francesco has one.
Pearl.
And then what 2 of my clients have them. And then my cousin has one. So those are some of the rescue ones. I did get some pictures. Maria, do you still have photos from this trip?
Oh, I'm sure I do.
You brought your camera.
Yeah, where they are is a different story. I have a photo of us with all the puppies, like
Yes.
and like that's on my LinkedIn, so I can give you that for sure because I have that on like a public thing.
I forgot about that picture. We're all in it with a whole row of puppies.
All the dogs.
Yeah.
So I can give you that photo.
Okay.
Now where the other photos are, I'm not sure.
So we ended up with 7 dogs and 7 cats. One dog was the adult, the mom. The rest were, the 6 of them were puppies. And then the other one was, I think, 1 adult cat and all the rest were kittens.
We had the 2 tiny kittens in the plane with us in the carrier.
There was more than 2.
There was more than 2.
In that carrier, yes. I think there was 3 or 4 kittens in that carrier, I believe. I don't know, maybe I'm wrong. I thought there was. Anyway,
There could have been, yeah.
I think there was. That's a good story too.
Oh,
yeah.
on the plane?
Yeah. We'll get
God.
there. We'll get
Yeah.
there. So we get to the airport. We're like so excited to finally leave Kazakhstan after that disaster.
After being awake for 24 hours.
Yes, 24 hours. And then we gave all of the dogs gravel.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And they were all sleeping in their carriers at the airport, which was remarkable. We had 2 big carriers, which I have pictures of that, and I will attach that to the YouTube video of them in their carriers. And then I had the carry-on bag with the cats, and those cats were sitting under the seat in front of me. But when we got to the airport, the staff in the airport just looked at us like we were completely insane.
We held up the entire flight. The pilots ended up coming out, and a bunch of the flight attendants came out to be like, it's okay. Like, the animals can come on the plane. Like, it's not a problem.
It was and the thing is that they had already been booked to be on the plane prior to going. So it's not like we showed up with these animals and we're like, hey, yeah, we're going on the plane with these animals. We had already booked all of this. We got all of the rabies shot for everybody. We had all that veterinary documentation. So
Yeah, because we had been bringing them to the vet.
We had been bringing them to the vet.
twice while we were there.
yeah, they all had their rabies vaccines. And the puppies, even though they were puppies, they were over 3 months old. They weren't like little
They weren't
old
tiny,
puppies.
no. Yeah.
They had all their vaccines by the time they were coming to Canada. And they didn't want to let us on the plane, so we almost missed our flight. We had to run.
We
through
held
the
up
airport.
the entire flight.
And I remember the lady that was with us, I was like, can you help us to like push these animals to the gate? And she's like, no.
They ended up making us pay $1,000. Do you remember?
No, I don't.
It was $1,000 US
to get them on the plane.
for us to leave with the animals.
But and it was weird because we did book them before. And I think the only reason why we were able to get on this flight was because it was a German airline. Like it wasn't Kazakhstan Air or something like
Lufthansa.
that. Yeah, it was Lufthansa. So they were fine with it.
Yeah.
They were just leaving from Kazakhstan and they're like, what is going on? Like what is being held up? And then they were making excuses. My manager's not like on, or I have to call it because it was an early flight. I'm pretty sure because we had to travel with them the entire day. The dogs and cats were gonna have to get out wherever. I think we did do Germany on the way back.
Yeah,
too.
the way over in Frankfurt.
And they like clean out all the crates. They like take care of the animals. Really, really, they were really awesome. But it was the staff that was like at the counter that were
The Kazakhstan stuff.
Yeah.
I didn't understand why we were taking all these dogs.
They
No.
thought we were stupid. They were like,
Yeah.
they're like, why? And then they were making fun of us and they were laughing at us
Yeah.
for wanting to bring these animals home and rescue them.
Guys
Yeah.
with huge guns. And I was just like, I just want to go home.
And you were like, I'm just done with this. Get me on the damn plane.
Because I hate planes. I hate airports.
Oh,
Don't you remember? I was peeing every 4 seconds because I was so nervous on the flight.
I honestly, no,
Yeah.
because I have no memory.
Yeah.
My memory is, yeah. She has a great memory. My memory is just terrible. Don't
Yeah.
ask me why. So we get on this plane finally after like fighting with them for a while.
yeah.
And we're on our way and we're like, okay, we're golden. The animals are on the flight. We're getting to Canada.
From
All's
Astana
good.
to Frankfurt, perfect.
Yeah.
Frankfurt home, it all went downhill. As soon as we got on the plane again in Germany, it all went downhill.
So on the plane from Germany to Canada, the cats shit in their carrier.
But okay, the cats were perfect angels.
Yes.
They slept the whole time. They didn't make one sound. It started to stink a little bit, so we were like, we'll clean this up.
Yeah. So I started taking the blankets out, and I was going to throw them out and put new blankets in because I'm not going to have like the whole flight smell like cat poop.
Yeah.
Right. And the cats started freaking out once they pooped in there because they were like, get me away from
But
my
they
bed.
were so tiny that it was just like, meow, meow.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, you can't
Yeah.
hear things. You can't hear a cat
No.
meowing on a plane. It's
Yeah,
too
no.
loud. So it's this lady next to me, as soon as she found out that I had cats, and we had been in the air now,
The two across, they were losing it.
they lost their minds. But we had already been on the plane now for what, like 6 hours?
Yeah, they like it was to the point where like the pilot or like somebody else from the Lufthansa staff had to like move them to the front.
Because she started freaking out. She's like, you can't have cats on the plane. I was like, well, if I can't have cats on the plane, I wouldn't be on the plane with cats. They
You
wouldn't have
make it
allowed
seem like
me.
you were really calm. You were not. You literally
I was
took a kitten
furious.
out of my hand and went, here, hold it.
to who? The lady?
Ladies across.
What?
Yeah.
You're lying.
No,
Swear to
because
God.
like this was
How
remember
did I
this was
remember
the
this?
second leg of our flight. We're tired. We
This
woke
was
up
almost
early.
like
I
2
was
full days of being
furious.
awake at this point, though.
I was furious.
yeah, and they were just like what they were saying was not making sense. It was a total Karen moment on their
Oh,
part.
yeah, for sure.
And they were just like, well, it stinks. And we're like, well, yeah, we're trying to fix that.
Which
We
I
don't-
did.
Yes.
I fixed it.
And we don't want to sit like in cat poo either. We're trying to sort it out. So it was just like, you're frustrated, we're frustrated, they're frustrated. And like, it's like when a child cries on a plane. Like, they can't do anything
poop on a
about
plane.
it.
Or poop on a
like,
plane.
It's just ridiculous. If we had control about it, we wouldn't want to be cleaning up cat poo after not sleeping for 2 days and trying to get home.
It wasn't even like it was stinking up the whole plane.
No,
we're
as
just like
soon as
we're
it
gonna
happens.
clean it in case it gets a little smelly for everyone else.
It smelled the most when we like opened it up.
Yeah, and threw it out.
And threw it out. That was the most smell. It wasn't like, oh my God, it smells like there's a dead raccoon in here or something like that. Like that wasn't the situation.
I don't even think honestly that anyone else could even smell it.
I thought it was just us that smelled
Yeah.
it.
Yeah.
The only reason why they started to freak out was
They
because they
saw
saw us
the
taking
cats.
the cats out of the
Yeah.
carrier, cleaning it up, and then putting them back in. So
Yeah.
the lady started going, I'm allergic to cats. And I was like, well, they've been on the plane for 6 hours. So you didn't have any allergic reaction for the last 6 hours. Now that you saw them, you're going to have an allergic reaction. I do remember being furious.
Yeah.
I was like, I'm going to kill this lady.
Yeah.
And then they moved her. And I was annoyed that they moved her because I was like, she didn't deserve to be moved.
Yeah, they brought her like way up to the front. But I remember the Lufthansa staff was honestly shout out
They
to
were
Lufthansa.
great.
They were like,
Is it
they're-
Lufthansa?
yeah,
Lufthansa or-
Lufthansa, because I think
Yeah.
it's Lufta.
Something like that. Yeah.
That was the best flight I've ever been on. The
Yeah.
best flight staff I've ever dealt with. Highly recommend flying with them. For
Yeah,
sure.
they were amazing.
Yeah. That was like our worst occurrence on the plane, I think. Right?
Yeah, like honestly, the plane ride, it was just like it sucked because the seats were like so small and we were on there for so long. There was no room for us. So we were just like beyond tired, like we were uncomfortable. But the only really bad thing that happened was the two ladies who hate cats.
I hope they see this video.
I'm sure they're nice ladies, maybe.
Whatever.
But
No,
they
not-
hate.
I think they aren't.
They hated cats.
I think they're not nice people at all.
How do you hate kittens?
I don't know.
They were honestly so cute.
They were mean. They were mean people. All right. So now we arrive in Canada, which was the best part of our entire trip.
The worst.
I will say, shout out to CBSA. You guys were the worst. Just want to say that. So I never been treated so bad and like as if I was some type of criminal and I was being treated that way by my own country. It was very sad. But anyways, before we get into that, before we went on this trip, I found homes for every single one of these animals. Yeah. So what I did was everybody had to give me a deposit. Even though these animals were free, we weren't charging anyone. We wanted to make sure that they were serious about adopting because I didn't want to end up with 14 dogs and cats at my house. So I made everybody give me a deposit and then they were getting their deposit back.
Oh, we forgot to mention that they made us keep 2 of the dogs.
Oh,
Before we left Kazakhstan, they made us leave like 2 of the dogs.
Four.
Four. Yeah.
So wait, let's go back. When we were in Kazakhstan, when we were having this whole issue with getting the animals on the plane, the people in Kazakhstan made us leave 4 dogs behind. They said we were only allowed to bring in 7 dogs and 7 cats. And I guess we had more than that. So they forced us to leave 4 dogs behind. Forgot to mention that. Okay. So then we're in Canada and we're unloading these animals. And keep in mind that these animals have been traveling for an extremely long time without food, without water. A lot of them were puppies. Yes, they cleaned out their carrier when we went into Germany, but now they traveled another additional, it was longer than 8 hours from Germany to Canada, I believe.
I think one way alone was like 10, 12 hours, something like that.
Yeah.
So, and that's without the layover, without the flight from Astana to Frankfurt.
Right. Mm-hmm. So these puppies were covered in poop, pee. They had not been eaten. They were starving. I remember when I brought the cats home, they went nuts to eat. So this was not a good situation. So we get into Canada and we are going to the specific area where we claim the animals. And when we got there to claim them, the lady behind the counter was super nice. She was like, oh my God, like these puppies are so cute. And I was like, yeah, I said 2 of them actually still need homes if you're interested. And she's like, oh my God. And she was interested and she was super sweet. And then, okay, so the vet has to come out and examine these animals first before you can take them. Okay, no problem. So I do want to mention that when I was in Kazakhstan, S said to me that Canada recently changed the laws about importing dogs and cats. And you needed to have more documentation, which we did not have. But she said to me, once you get to Canada, it'll be fine. It's not a big deal. They're not going to send the animals back. They all have their rabies vaccines. They all have a clean bill of health from the veterinarians here. It'll be okay. They'll let you take them. I've done this before. So we trusted that she knew what she was doing because that was not our forte. We were not in charge of organizing any of this. We were just couriers. That's all our job was. So we waited there for a very long time while this vet came and checked out all these animals. I'm going to say it was hours of us sitting there waiting. Do you remember?
We were there for a really long time.
Yeah.
Yeah, it wasn't like 20 minutes. It was like,
No,
It was
we were there
hours.
for a
Yeah.
really long time.
So we were starting to get a little bit nervous because they hadn't let us like release the animals to us yet. And then finally an agent came out and he was like, all right, which one's the adult? Because there was one adult dog, remember, and all the rest were puppies. And I said, that one's the adult. He's like, okay, take her out. The rest of them are going back to Kazakhstan.
They thought we were like breeding them.
Yep.
That's what it was.
Or selling them.
They thought that we were lying, that we rescued them, and they thought that we were breeding them. But if you looked at the puppies, they were in rough shape. Like they weren't.
They were healthy.
They were, but like
These were stray animals. Like we're not breeding these animals. We're not selling these animals.
No.
But
And they're like mutts. Like they were all
mutts.
It's not like they were like these gorgeous little
no.
poodles or something.
But even if we were breeding them, it's irrelevant.
Yeah.
The animals had their rabies vaccine. And the adult dog had the same the same medical documents as the puppies. And the adult dog was not spayed.
No.
So we could have bred her too. And he let us keep the cats. He said, you can keep the cats, which all had the same documentation as the puppies. And you can keep the mother dog. But the puppies, the 6 puppies, are being sent back to Kazakhstan. To which we were like, what do you mean? Like, why? And he would not explain himself. He would not tell us why. He gave us no explanation. He just started screaming at us, specifically at me, because I was the one like, what is happening? Saying, get these, if you don't take that dog, the mother dog out of the crate right now, I'm sending her back with the rest of the puppies too. So you make up your mind. Is she going back or are you taking her? Screaming at us. And all I wanted was just an explanation as to why this is happening. So I said, can you explain why all of these animals have the same documentation, but you're not letting us keep the 6 puppies? And he said, do you want them all to be sent back? Like basically shut up, do what I'm saying, and that's it. There's not like, I just remember being like, what do you, like hysterically bawling my eyes out, like being unable to breathe because I couldn't believe what was happening.
Yeah, you guys were like yelling back at him. I was just like beyond exhausted. I was just sitting cross-legged on the floor, like crying in my hands. I'm like, just let us leave the puppy.
because the thing is like we traveled. It was a long trip. We dealt with those people on the plane. Like it wasn't like the smoothest thing ever.
We also didn't want to send the puppies back.
No.
Well, no. So we didn't go in there with like fighting. You know what I mean? Like
No.
we went in there exhausted, being like, okay, whoa. Like
What's
everything
happening?
was moving so fast. What's going on? And then he wouldn't give us an explanation. And then it's like, okay, well, like they just traveled like as long as us, and they're probably double as tired and double as hungry and double, you know what I mean? And we don't want to do that. Like, is there anything that we can do? And why is one can stay and the cats can stay, but the puppies can't stay? Like, there was like nothing at all. It was just like their way or the highway, but it made no sense. No. There was no sense to that at all.
There was no sense, and a couple of the kittens were sick.
Yeah.
And he let us keep the kittens that had evident signs of being unwell. But the puppies were all healthy. And for some reason, so it wasn't as though the vet came and said, these animals are not healthy, I don't want them coming into Canada. That didn't happen. They literally thought that we were going to be making money off of these dogs. And for whatever reason, they were not allowing us to keep them. So I had to pay a fine. I remember they made us pay a fine. So I went and paid the fine, and I was bawling my eyes out. And I remember the CBSA agent, the girl that originally wanted one of the puppies, was just like, I am so sorry. And I literally looked at her and said, I don't give a shit that you're sorry. Like, I was so angry.
Yeah.
I was just like, shut the hell up. I don't even want to hear anything that comes out of your mouth right now. It wasn't her fault, but I was just so angry and upset. And all these people are also waiting to pick up their puppies that night.
Yeah.
So I had to tell them all, hey, by the way, you're not getting a puppy. So then I said to him, because he was like trying to rush to get the dogs back on the next plane to Kazakhstan. So I said to him, listen, can I just clean out the crate, give them food, give them water? Like, they've been traveling for a really long time, and then you can send them back to Kazakhstan, but just let me take care of them. Nope. You're not doing that. Why? And he was trying to rush to get them on the next plane to Kazakhstan, which ended up leaving. So once that plane left and he didn't get those puppies on that plane, okay, can I clean the cage out now?
How long did they have to wait for the next flight after that?
The next flight was leaving like immediately. So that's why he came out guns a-blazing, screaming at us, telling us what to do, because he was trying to get them on the flight like ASAP, which I still don't understand why it was such a rush. I don't get it. So once they missed that flight, then I said, okay, well, they missed the flight. So can I clean out the cage now and give them some food and water? Nope. So they ended up keeping them in like a holding area for, I think, like at least a day or two before they were sent back.
I think it was a while. Like,
it was a while.
Yeah.
And then they were sent back. So once they were sent back, they actually only made it to Germany.
They went back to Frankfurt.
Because S met them in Germany. And she was a really nice person, don't get me wrong. She had a great heart. She helped a lot of animals. She rescued a lot of animals. Really proud of the work that she did. But she didn't do things properly. And so the documentation that she needed in order to get these dogs into Canada, she did not get done. And ultimately, that was the reason why they kept those puppies. Now, it didn't make any sense because none of the animals had that documentation. So it was really just a pick and choose manner where they just decided to be assholes, really. Yeah. But long story short, had she gotten all the proper documentation done, those puppies would have came into Canada. Now, she did end up rectifying the situation. So she met the puppies in Germany and flew them to New York. So she went to New York. They got into the States, no problem. So it was just Canada. But they had no issues getting the dogs into the United States. So once they were in the United States, I contacted a courier that ended up driving these puppies from New York City to the Buffalo Bridge. And then I got a bunch of volunteers and clients, shout out to those clients and volunteers that helped me. They went to the Buffalo airport one at a time and picked up a puppy one at a time and then brought them through the Buffalo Bridge over into Canada. So all of those puppies did end up coming to Canada, and they did end up going to their forever homes, thankfully. But explain to me why, once they got to Buffalo, they could go over the border into Canada, but they wouldn't let them come from Toronto. They still had the same documentation, by the way. She never ended up getting that extra documentation. So what was the reason why they were sent back from Toronto?
It makes no sense.
If those CBSA agents are watching this, a big F you. Like, I still feel that way, by the way. 9 years later, I'm getting like heated talking about
I'm even more mad now.
Like, oh, I just remember crying for like 2 days straight. Like, just nonstop crying.
Yeah, that was
crying and sleeping.
Sleeping.
Waking up, crying, having a snack, and then going back to bed.
We never got used to the time zone when we were there. We slept most days and nights.
The first day we literally woke up, it was like 4 a.m. and we were making like full dinners.
Yeah. It was weird. Wait, do you remember also what happened on the drive home from the airport?
When you lost your luggage?
Okay. Oh, we got to get there. We got to get there. We ain't home yet. Okay.
Do you remember that?
Oh, I remember.
On top of everything else?
Okay. So we had that issue leaving Kazakhstan at the airport in Kazakhstan. Yeah. They forced us to leave 4 dogs behind. We almost missed our flight. Then we got yelled at on the flight because there was kittens on the flight, which apparently I wasn't allowed to have according to the passenger on the flight. And then once we got to Canada, 6 of the puppies got sent back. But that's not how our evening ends.
No.
Nope. So my boyfriend at the time, now ex-boyfriend, picked us up from the airport with one of his friends, Francesco, who now owns Pearl, hilariously enough. And they loaded all of our stuff, our luggage and everything into the back of the truck. Mind you, they were also like all over the place as much as we were because I was calling them, crying, freaking out about the situation.
And it was really late too. Like by the time
late.
we ended up leaving, I think it was pretty late.
So nobody was in their right frame of minds. But Francesco did not shut the back of the truck.
Okay, but what's absolutely insane about that is it made it all the way back to Niagara Falls.
Yeah. It did. So once we got back to Niagara Falls, we unloaded everything and Maria's crying and I'm like hugging Maria because I thought she was crying about like the puppies, right? And she's like, no, my luggage is not in the truck. I was like, what? And it had her laptop,
everything,
and your camera. Everything. It had a lot of expensive stuff in it.
Yeah.
And we were just like, what do you mean? So then my ex says to Francesco, did you shut the back of the truck? And then Francesco realizes, shit.
Listen, it was a long, messy day, okay?
Yeah. And like looking back, it's insane, but funny and it's fine.
So I call Vanessa.
Yeah.
And I'm like, Vanessa, you're not going to believe what happened. And she's like, are you kidding me right now? Like, is this ever going to end? Which, by the way, this is still not the end of the trip.
No.
We still have more to talk about. So then Maria calls me and she goes, Vanessa, you're not going to believe this. I said, what? And she's like, this guy just called me. He found my luggage on the side of the road. It was literally at the exit that we took from Niagara Falls. So it was literally like 10 minutes away.
Yep.
And he called you and she got all of her stuff back.
Like everything. There was not one thing missing.
Or damaged.
No. Like, and I was just so grateful. I have actually picked up luggage since then and always returned it. And like,
pay it back.
Yeah. It's just, you have no, like, even just like if you were to ever have a camera or computer and like lose all your photos, like it's violating to lose your stuff.
Yes.
And I like after that entire experience, I'm just like, are you freaking kidding me? Like this is not happening. So I was super, super grateful and thankful.
That was a really nice guy.
Yes.
He knew we had a bad day.
Yes. Yes.
Also, it's like an hour and a half. Like the fact that it flowed in Niagara Falls.
It was absurd.
And when we were on the highway, people were honking at us and waving at us. And I remember.
I didn't know that.
And we were just like, why are they honking and waving at us?
Yeah.
Oh, because the trunk is open and our luggage is back there. But I was also laying down in the truck crying the entire way home, so I was not paying attention to anything.
No.
So we get home and things get back to normal. You know, the puppies came to Canada. Everybody got their puppy. Everything's all good. It's all right. And then shit hit the fan again. For me. For me.
Yeah, I remember this.
So I ended up adopting one of the Kazakhstan kittens. I kept him, Kaz. And I also kept a gray one for short term, a gray one that was a little bit older than Kaz because they were both sick. So I had to nurse them back to health for a couple of weeks before I gave the gray one to its new home. I didn't want to give it to its new home sick. Mm-hmm. But I didn't have the ability to give the kitten back in 2 weeks. I ended up having to keep it for 2 months because it turns out that they had ringworm, I had ringworm, and so did all my pets.
Oh my God, I remember that.
Yeah. And ringworm in animals is not easy to get rid of the same way it is with people because ringworm attacks the hair follicles. And because animals are covered in hair, it just completely covers them and it sheds off of their coat into the environment and can reinfect them. And I was also running a pet grooming business. So I had to actually close my business because I was too fearful that I was going to transfer ringworm to my clients. Mm-hmm. So I closed my business and I was treating these animals. I had to give them lime sulfur dips twice a week. I had to give them antifungal shampoos every other day. And I had to disinfect my house every single day with bleach. I bought an ozone generator that shocked every single room in my house. And I had to rip up all the carpet in my basement and get rid of my couches because there was a good chance that those spores were going to be in my carpet and on my couches. So I had to get rid of everything that it could have possibly touched. I had just bought my first house. I did not have the finances to be able to afford any of this. I did not expect that this trip to Kazakhstan was going to be this much of a nightmare. Now, the reason why this happened is because when you are rescuing animals, you are supposed to be quarantining them. So you take in an animal, it has its own room or whatever, it's quarantined for a period of time until it has a clean bill of health. And I believe the quarantine period is about 2 weeks because some diseases, or for example, ringworm, can lie dormant for 2 weeks and then show signs afterwards. So when S was bringing in these animals, she didn't quarantine any of them. She just brought them all in and let them all socialize with one another and run around the house.
Yeah. It was too hard. Like, there was too many of them.
Well, but there was a lot of rooms in that
Yeah,
house.
true.
You definitely could have locked new animals away in different rooms. It was a mansion. But needless to say, it's not that she particularly did anything wrong. It's just that she didn't know. And I'm sure we all learned from that experience. And moving forward with her rescue missions, I'm sure that she made adjustments so that something like that wouldn't happen again. But you learn by making mistakes, right? So the thing is, she needed help. She needs another person or another like group of people to be doing this. It's really difficult to do this as one person. So I'm treating them all for ringworm for a period of time, taking time off of work. And then in the middle of the night one night, I like woke up and I said to myself, I feel like I need to go check on the kittens. They were downstairs in my basement. I went down to my basement. It was like 2 o'clock in the morning and Kaz was like dead.
Oh my God, I forgot about
Yeah.
that.
He was like dead on the floor. He wasn't breathing.
I forgot about that.
Yep. He pooped himself. I was like, he's dead. So I noticed that he was breathing, but it was like very labored. And so I rushed him to the emergency clinic and they managed to save him. He was hypothermic because he was under 8 weeks old when we brought him from Kazakhstan, which you're not supposed to, well, no, you can bring animals that young actually. So he was about 5 weeks and he couldn't regulate his body temperature. And I didn't know this because when I brought them to the vet and they told me to do these lime sulfur dips, she never said to me, you have to make sure he stays warm until he's dry.
After.
I didn't know this. So like and you're not supposed to blow dry them when you do the lime sulfur dips. You're supposed to let them sit in lime sulfur and let them air dry. That's the best way that the lime sulfur can kill the fungus. So you're not supposed to dry them. So they were wet. So I would just squeegee the water off and then let the cat go wearing a cone so that he didn't lick the lime sulfur off of him. And that was it. And I had done it a few times already at this point. But that particular night, his body temperature, I guess, dropped and he almost died. So the emergency clinic did save his life, fortunately. And then when that happened, I was like, I got to keep this cat. I can't. That's it. This cat is my cat now. Yeah. And he was a bit not all there in the head.
He was a silly boy.
He was very strange. I still miss him to this day.
Yeah.
He was a great cat.
I loved that.
Oh, he was awesome.
Yeah.
I loved him so much. And him and Gidget were like best friends. And yeah, he was a great cat. He was like a dog.
Yeah.
So then I finally got the cats healthy. The gray one went to its forever home. And then the Munchkin cats, they were supposed to be Munchkin, they all got ringworm. And then all of her animals got ringworm because she had dogs as well. This was the lady that adopted those cats. So I had to pay to get all of those cats treated because she didn't have money to pay for all those vet bills. Fortunately, S did reimburse me for the vet bills, thank God, because that was a traumatic experience financially for me at that time. I really could not afford to do any of that.
Yeah, that was not, that was a lot of money.
It was a lot of money, like thousands of dollars spent on that medication and treatment. And the cats also had upper respiratory infections and eye infections. So fortunately, thankfully, she reimbursed me for those vet bills, thank God. And I guess that's finally where the end of that trip went. I don't think there's anything more to add unless you guys can remember.
I try to black it out.
Yeah. It was weird. It was just like a strange fever dream. Honestly, that's what it feels like.
It's definitely something that I think we blocked out of our memory. And now we got to revisit it today. And I'm like hot thinking about it right now.
Like, and the reason why we did want to go was just to like save some animals, honestly. And that's like our whole, like, even before when I was like, were we crazy just like thinking about it? We were, but it was because we wanted to bring some puppies and some kittens home.
Well, and it gives you a huge appreciation for people who actually do this, like that have like businesses or whatever they are,
like
nonprofits,
nonprofits,
fundraisers that actually go and do this because it's a lot of
hard.
Yeah.
It's too much for me. I would totally save the animals again, but I don't know if I'd go for all the other drama.
If I were to do something like this again, I would do it through a legitimate, registered organization that does things more appropriately, gets all the paperwork done properly, you know, all of the vet work done properly, proper quarantine periods. I would definitely go and be a courier again, but it would have to be for a reputable company, not just someone who was trying to do something good, which shout out to her because she did save a lot of animals, but that was a very, very, very stressful trip.
It was.
It's an absolute nightmare.
Yeah.
But we did rescue them.
We did.
They did get here.
Yes.
One way or another.
I
Yes.
ended up seeing Pearl because Francesco and his wife are clients of mine. I ended up seeing Pearl, and I had totally forgot that he took her. And so I went to see them the one day, and she comes trucking out, little old Pearl, and he's like, Pearl. And I'm like, Pearl. And me and Francesco both looked at each other, and I was like, oh my God. So it was so nice to see her like so many years later.
I know.
So like it really was worth it.
Oh, yeah.
But yeah, just absolutely insane.
The animals went to great homes, and I got to groom a few of them for many years. And they were great dogs. I have no idea what the hell they are mixed with. They are ultra mutts.
That's why I would die to see photos of all of the animals now.
What they look
look
like.
like.
Like some of them had long hair. They didn't shed. It was bizarre. They were bizarre.
Yeah.
Nothing we've ever seen like here. Like
No.
it wasn't like, oh yeah, I know that a dog that looks exactly like that down the street from me. It's like, no, this is just different.
And they're not even dogs that you can say like, I think they're mixed with this. There's no idea what they're
No.
mixed with.
So cute still.
Very cute.
So cute.
Yes.
But yeah, no idea what they are or where they come from, half of them.
No.
Yep.
Nope. But I think that's it for our story. Well, thank you guys so much for being guests today.
Absolutely.
having
Thank
us.
you.
This was a lot of fun. Do you guys want people to follow you on social media, or
Well, you probably do.
At Vanessa Dewar.
you are a real estate agent
Yes.
and she posts a lot of nice houses here in the Niagara region. So if you guys want to support her or you're looking for a house to buy,
Stopped selling dogs, started selling homes.
we never sold dogs.
No.
They were free.
Sounded cool. Yeah.
It's raining very hard. So for this outro, you guys are going to be hearing a lot of rain in the background. But that is it for today's episode. Tune in next week for an inspirational episode where I talk to a very successful female entrepreneur who, despite all of the odds against her, created an amazing life that most people would dream about. Thank you all for listening, and thank you again to Maria and Vanessa for being guests today. I'll see you all next week for another episode of Talk Your Tail Off.